The Trump indictment is imminent. A lot of people on the left very excited about this. A lot of leaks coming out of the Department of Justice. And we're learning that apparently this could be coming within the next day or within the next week. That's how imminent this is. We also know that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, named Mark Meadows, apparently testified in front of the grand jury. Some people are wondering if he flipped or if he gave them something that they needed. If something happened that is accelerating this. And there's also some new complexities that have arisen in the grand jury proceedings. Apparently, subpoenas have even gone out to Trump's Secret Service agents. So the big news comes to us over from our friends at justthenews.com. And they've got a bunch of ears to the ground. And here's what they tell us. Feds inform Trump he is the target, likely to be indicted, and it's coming soon, as the DOJ rebuffs prosecutorial misconduct claim. Meaning Trump's lawyers came in and they said, your investigation's totally illegitimate. You've got some misconduct that's taking place. It rises to the threshold of what's called prosecutorial misconduct, which is a big no-no, and that would invalidate the prosecution. Of course, special counsel is going to get that claim from Trump and his defense, and he's just going to laugh at it, right? Yeah, okay, we haven't even gotten started yet. Now, federal prosecutors apparently have notified Donald Trump that he is a criminal target. Now, that's not news, right? We've already been following that for some time. And he's likely to be indicted imminently. That is new. In a probe into the alleged classified documents. This comes as the Justice Department declined to delay charges to give him time to investigate things like witness tampering. His legal team submitted a document saying, we think there are problems with the witnesses. Can we have more time to explain this to you before you bring the charges? Special counsel said no. The sources directly familiar with the case told Just the News that the DOJ declined to delay the planned indictment of Trump. He wanted to investigate allegations that a senior prosecutor working on the case tried to influence a key witness by discussing a federal judgeship with the witness's lawyer, right? So somebody says, hey, if you say this thing, senior prosecutor talking to a witness, maybe you can become a judge, maybe I can put in a good word for you or something like that. And they're saying that is the prosecutor putting pressure on this person. That allegation is still pending in a secret case before the judge. This judge, named James Boasberg, is the judge who oversees the grand jury proceedings. And different judges are on rotation. So one judge, you're in charge of this classroom, you're this courtroom for a day, a term. Then you move over here and you move over here, and they rotate around. And sometimes they even change actual sections of the law. So one person can go from a civil case load to a criminal case load, or to a family case load, or back over to the juvenile division. So this judge is here with grand juries. An historic federal indictment crafted by Jack Smith could be handed up by a federal grand jury as early as this week, the sources said. Trump has already been indicted in Manhattan. Trump has portrayed both cases as a witch hunt. This week, Trump argued that Smith is a partisan, and the federal case against him is being treated differently than one against Joe Biden. Trump said this on Truth. How can the DOJ possibly charge me, who did nothing wrong, when no other presidents were charged, when Joe Biden won't be charged for anything? He said only Trump, the greatest witch hunt of all time. Now, of course, prosecutors deny any of that. One of the potential charges coming against Trump is this: 18 U.S. Code Section 793 outlaws a gathering, transmitting, or losing of national defense information. And we're always asking ourselves, how do we distinguish the Trump case from, let's say, the Pence case, or the Trump case from, let's say, the Biden case, or the Biden separate cases, the Biden VP case, and the Biden senator case? So they certainly, you can make the argument that Biden lost those. He transmitted those. He took those out of SCIFs and brought them to places he should have never brought them. But we don't see any obstruction here, but that might be coming. Obstruction of justice may be the distinguishing factor. These are all claims the president and his team have robustly contested. No prior sitting American president ever been indicted in federal court. Trump leads the GOP field by as many as 50 points in some polls. Now, Trump's lawyers have prepared a robust defense, months of legal research. They're anticipating Smith might pursue charges. Yeah, we've been saying that for a while here. Trump's lawyers are prepared to argue that a president has broad powers to declassify. They will rely heavily on a U.S. district court case. This is the Clinton sock drawer case, where the court concluded that a president had broad and mostly unchallengeable power to decide what documents to keep. And I agree with the judge on that, because if you make it up to NARA, then NARA is more powerful than the president. The American Bar Association seemed to agree with Trump's assertion that guidelines support his contention that presidents have broad authority to formally declassify most documents, that aren't protected while they are in office. Prosecutors plan to counter that authority, saying that that authority does not extend to documents containing national defense information, whose retention could jeopardize national security. And again, this is going to be an interesting case because the source of the executive's power, right, is the Constitution, but they are enabling the chief executive. That's why he's got special powers like pardon privileges and other things that nobody else has. Who ultimately has the final word on declassifying documents that are in possession of the executive branch? Seems like has to be the president. I don't know who else there is on the list. I don't think it's Deborah Steidel Wall from NARA. I don't think it's Christopher Wray. They have purportedly introduced to the grand jury witness a recording Trump's office made in 2021 during an interview with former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who we're going to talk about next. Biographers in which the former president allegedly talked about a document he described as being classified and in his possession allegedly written by former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley that outlined a war plan against Iran. While prosecutors have not located an exact document, they found one with classified markings written by others laying out an Iranian battle plan that Trump returned to the National Archives more than a year ago. Trump lawyers have developed evidence showing that information from that plan was leaked to a major magazine by a senior military officer and plan to use that as evidence that it no longer is considered national defense information. But one of the first disputes is going to be whether or not evidence that Trump submitted that alleges that a senior federal prosecutor discussed a federal judgeship with a defense lawyer for a key witness. Give us what we need, you might become a judge. Lisa Monaco, who many people think is actually running the DOJ, they informed the Trump team in the last 24 hours it was rejecting a request to delay the indictment so that this could be investigated. The lawyer was already in line for consideration for the judgeship, I'm sure, and the prosecutor allegedly raised the nomination while trying to get additional testimony from the lawyer's client. These prosecutors, man, are the worst. So this prosecutor goes to this defense lawyer. Prosecutor needs this witness's testimony. Okay, prosecutor goes to somebody and they say, hey, we need this witness, this testimony. Witness says, I'm going to lawyer up. I'm in position for a judgeship or something like that, and I got to get a lawyer just to help me out with all this. So the lawyer comes in and says, listen, my client doesn't want to get involved in any of this, so they're just going to, exercise their right to remain silent. They're not going to be useful in this claim. And the prosecutor says, gosh, you're serious, really? They're not going to cooperate with us, and they're in line for a judgeship? They want to be a judge? Well, yeah. Gosh, it'd be really strange, if or a recommendation went over to, let's say, the Department of Justice or to the Biden administration about nominations for certain judges. It'd be a shame if that got revoked, wouldn't it? Good luck with their judgeship. Maybe the prosecutor's not even that explicit. Oh, they don't want to work with the Biden administration? Well, good luck with them being a judge. Hopefully that works out for them. Might be a little bit easier, if they could just cooperate with us. Maybe we could speed that along for them, if they just kind of change their testimony and give us what they need, what we need. The discussion raised concerns among defense lawyers that it was an effort to influence the witness, who has declined to change his testimony because he claims, I got no other information about the boxes. And so we're still waiting to see when this drops, but an indictment looking to be imminent. And they're saying that Mark Meadows was a part of the conversation, or somebody who maybe even recorded that audio. He was the final White House chief of staff, now being seen as a key witness in the prosecution. Mark Meadows is one of the key figures, apparently has testified before a grand jury hearing as they bring evidence into investigation led by the special counsel. Two different inquiries. One is focused on Trump's efforts to, they say, cling to power after losing the 2020 election, which led into January 6th. And the question about the scope of this investigation was, this is about after losing, right? After losing. The other question was, are they going to be going into pre-election stuff that Trump was doing? The other is the Trump classified documents allegation. It's not clear precisely when Meadows testified or if other investigators question him about one or both cases. For months, people in Trump's orbit have been puzzled and wary about the low profile kept by Meadows. As reports surface one of the witnesses after another, Mr. Meadows was largely after sight. Some advisors believe he could be significant. Yeah, he's the chief of staff. Trump himself apparently has asked aides about this. According to the grand jury testimony asked about it, a lawyer for Meadows said the following. He said, well, without commenting on whether or not Mr. Meadows has testified before the grand jury or in any other proceeding, Mr. Meadows has maintained a commitment to tell the truth where he has a legal obligation to do so. So thanks, Mr. Lawyer. Mr. Meadows was a polarizing figure, they say. He was around Trump as he plotted to stay in office. Now he's connected tangentially to a potentially vital piece of evidence that investigators uncovered. An audio recording of an interview that Trump gave to two people assisting Meadows in writing a memoir of his White House years. Meadows did not attend the meeting. During the meeting, Trump referenced the document, and the document is going to be going to try to show Trump's intent. I know it's classified, and I didn't. Seemingly suggesting that he should have declassified it, but that he no longer could since he was out of office, right? So in other words, hinting that he didn't declassify it. He's like, oh man, this thing is still classified. And again, you got to be very careful with these words. He might be referring to the document as having been classified, or, he could be saying I should have gotten the label taken off of it or something like that, right? But the technical status of the document is declassified. It may not be reflected on the face of the document, but the status of the document is it's declassified. So you got to be careful on how they are trying to make this stick. Now, we had a little bit more on the Meadows stuff. It's not clear which part of the investigation he even got into, whether it was the mishandling or whether it was in the efforts to oppose and overturn 2020. Of course, he's viewed as a very critical witness in this case. But as the grand jury nears, there are other complexities that are popping up. The grand jury that's convening in Florida has some other interesting things going on here. And this is separate. There's been another one sitting for months. This goes into the documents case. There are people familiar with the investigation. They say, listen to this, that more than 20 members of Mr. Trump's Secret Service security detail have also been subpoenaed. They're trying to get anything they possibly can on him. No stone left unturned. But there are indications that the Washington grand jury may have stopped hearing testimony in recent weeks. As for the Florida grand jury, which began hearing evidence last month, only a handful of witnesses has testified to it. At least one witness has already been there. It's an open question why prosecutors impaneled the Florida grand jury. There's an uncertainty there due to the secret nature of grand juries. Even though this is shrouded in mystery, people familiar with the inquiry suggested there could be a number of reasons why Smith chose this. They could bring charges in both places. One case could be brought in another, or different crimes of the same allegation could be brought theoretically in two different locations. One is the investigation, Washington largely complete, but Florida is still going on. So this is Jack Smith. They are working hard on this. They are even now investigating his Secret Service agents. Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, has been compelled to flip, and the grand jury is likely going to be returning an indictment. The question is when. We know that in DC especially, there will be a panel of grand jurors who are salivating to prosecute Trump. I do believe it's imminent. Whether it's this week or next is only left to be seen. Of course, we will continue to cover this. I've been assembling all of this into a massive mind map covering all of the Trump prosecutions, and so we hope you join us. There will be a lot more to go on this. We are just getting warmed up, and after the indictment comes a real slog. We don't know whether they're going to ask to hold Trump non-bondable or what type of prohibitions they will try to impose on him, but we will be here to cover.